Hi, I'm Reverend Wendy Craig-Purcell here at the Unity Center in San Diego. Thank you so much for watching today. If you'd like to support the work that we do here, please consider making a contribution. Go to our website. It's easy to do. Thank you in advance for that contribution.
So today I want to talk to you about the ideas of turning points in personal growth. So there was an old man from the backcountry area of Tennessee, and he'd never really been in a big city before, and he went to a big city and found himself noticing or seeing an elevator for the very first time. And he's standing there and he notices a very old, haggardly woman getting on the elevator and the doors close. And he's kind of mystified by this. And then a few minutes later, the doors open and out comes the most gorgeous, drop-dead, beautiful woman. The old man turns to his son and says, "Billy, go get your mother right now." I wish personal growth were that easy. That you could just get on, the elevator and the doors close, and in a few minutes it opens and out you come and you are this totally transformed person. Anybody like to join me in that, right? Have you noticed it's not like that? Have you noticed it's not like that, right? We in metaphysics, we in Unity really understand what it means for our spirituality to be a way of life. And that it is something that we are called to practice on a consistent basis, not just when we come together for a class or on a Sunday morning, but moment by moment and life experience by life experience. And that is really how we change, and that is really how we grow. We don't grow without a little bit of challenge that causes us to say, wait a minute, the way things are right now is not the way that I want them to be. I remember learning about a place in Arizona, in Oracle, Arizona. It's called the Biosphere. And it is a place that is devoted to studying the environment and life systems within the environment. It's a place of research and outreach and teaching and learning. You can walk through a tropical rainforest in this biosphere. You can walk beside an ocean and then into the desert. And it is done in part, it's in association with the University of Arizona, and part of it is to just help us understand the ecosystem better than we currently do. And one of the things that was discovered in this ecosystem is that even though the trees in this biosphere were flourishing and looked by simple appearance to be strong and healthy, what the scientists discovered was you could just about touch the trees and they would fall over. Because what was absent in the biosphere was the natural formation of wind that would cause these trees to have to find and create strong roots that would hold them up. There was nothing for them to have to work against, and so they didn't have any strength. And in many ways, that's the way our life works as well. That it is when we are struggling a bit and stretching and reaching to deal with life as it is coming to us, that we find that we begin to develop capacities that we never knew that we had before. I believe that not only do we want to live in response to what is happening in our lives, but that there's another way of looking at turning points, and that is turning points that we consciously choose, where we say, you know what, I want to live my life better. I want to grow, and here are some things I'm going to do to help with that growth. Of all the things that I've come to appreciate about this teaching called Unity is that it is so set up in such a powerful way to help us become the best possible versions of ourselves, not only for ourselves, but for the impact that that has on all of the people that we live with or that we work with or that we associate with. I am so deeply committed to the idea that any kind of work I do on myself or growth I attempt to do on myself obviously not only benefits me, but it cannot help but have some sort of positive impact on those that I interact with. And I believe that's true of each and every one of us here. And I applaud us for all the places and ways that we could be today, that we choose to say, I'm going to be here. I want to continue to learn and grow. I want to continue to be my better self. That deserves a pat on the back. Go ahead, give yourself a pat on the back. No, really, I'm serious. Get yourself a pat on the back. It really deserves that. It deserves that. So I have 7 turning points to personal growth that I want to share with you. And the very first one is a turning point when we refuse to compromise our integrity. When we refuse to compromise our integrity, say that with me. When we refuse to compromise our integrity. When we refuse to compromise our integrity. I remember my minister, my Unity minister, Bob Stevens, saying one Sunday morning, you gotta learn to live by one set of rules. One set of rules. Not 2 or 3 or 4, one set of rules. It doesn't matter whether people are looking or not. One set of rules. A simple way of saying to live by integrity. There was a period of time in my life that I spent a lot of time reading biographies of our founding fathers and our early history. And I think I must have read a half a dozen biographies about Abraham Lincoln. And here's a quote from one of the biographies I had read. And you know that throughout his administration, especially during the time of the Civil War, Lincoln had so many challenges that he was dealing with, not just external, but internal with the people that he worked with closely in his cabinet. But he had such strong resolve, and though he wasn't perfect, none of us is, there was a commitment to integrity that was so real. He once said, I desire so to conduct the affairs of this administration that if at the end, when I come to lay down the reins of power, I have lost every other friend on earth, I shall at least have one friend left, and that friend shall be down inside of me. It's the idea to be able to lay our head down on our pillow at night and know that we have done right, to know that we have lived, in Old Testament terminology, uprightly, that we have lived that day or moved through that day with one set of rules, that we have moved through that day with a commitment to personal integrity. Strong turning point. A second, when we learn to be honest with ourselves and do our own inner work. When we learn to be honest with ourselves and do our own inner work. Say that with me. When we learn to be honest with ourselves and do our own inner work. Oh my goodness. I have been in metaphysics long enough to see how sometimes people use metaphysics as spiritual bypass, or use metaphysics as a way to table turn. Oh, I'm not late. I'm just in the flow. And I could go on and on with all sorts of other examples of that, but you get the kind of picture that I'm trying to describe here. When we learn to be honest with ourselves, and where we are willing to do our own inner work. I have so much respect for the teachings of the 12-step recovery movement. I have so much respect for the focus on do your own inner work. Take your own personal moral inventory. We're not here to do that for another. Would you not agree that you have work to do? Yes. Would you say that really, if you focused on doing your work the best you could, would there be a whole lot of extra time left over to be too worried or concerned about somebody else's work? Be honest. Probably not. Probably not. And I don't say that to discourage any of us. I don't say that to make any of us feel badly. But I say that to put the focus where the focus needs to be. And that needs to be in our willingness to be honest with ourselves, to pay attention and notice ourselves, our actions, our behaviors, our thoughts, our feelings, and to do our inner work. It means that we are willing to own our stuff. Some of us have a lot of stuff. That we are willing to own our stuff, that we are willing to clean up our messes. Boy, that's a big one. willing to clean up our messes, and willing to admit where we have done wrong. We are not the things we do. We are so much more than that. But what happens is if we don't clean up our own stuff, if we don't admit where we have made mistakes and make amends when we can, then we are carrying all that baggage forward with us, and we can never possibly live a life that feels joyful and free. And we'll always wonder why things just aren't working out so well for us, because we're dragging along this stuff that we haven't cleaned up. We're not doing our own inner work. Instead of looking within with gentle eyes, with a firm resolve to clean up our messes and do our inner work, we make it about somebody else. We distract ourselves in that way. Third turning point is when we practice patience and gentleness with ourselves and others. Take a breath with me. When we practice patience and gentleness with ourselves and others. Say that with me. When we practice patience and gentleness with ourselves and others. With ourselves and others. I love the poster of the little disheveled boy with the caption that says, "Please be patient with me. God isn't finished with me yet." I think we should be able to wear a sign, That would be real vulnerable, wouldn't it? Please be patient with me. The divine God Spirit isn't quite finished with me yet. I'm working on my stuff, but please be patient with me. God isn't finished with me yet. To do that with the gentleness makes all the difference in the world. How many of you are truly motivated to grow and change if somebody is trying to frighten you into it, or guilt you into it, or shame you into it, or blame you into it? Does that work for you? I know it doesn't work for me. It might produce a very temporary shift and change, but I'll tell you, it is not a permanent shift or change. But when somebody can be gentle with me, and loving and kind with me, and patient with me, and see in me what I'm trying to become or what I'm trying to work through, man, I'm motivated to go that second mile. Man, I'm motivated to do that work. It feels so nurturing and supportive. I think this is the role that we are meant to play with each other, that we are meant to be each other's spiritual cheerleaders, spiritual coaches, if you will. Not to say what you have to do, but to encourage every step forward toward improvement that you're making. That's how we motivate ourselves and each other to change. Fourth turning point, when we learn not to judge by appearances. Actually, that could be a whole lesson, wouldn't you say? When we learn to judge not by appearances, say that one with me. When we learn to judge not by appearances. Who said that? Jesus. Jesus is one of Jesus' core teachings. Do not judge by appearances. Why would he say that? Why would he say that? I believe he said it because he had a great deal of wisdom and awareness into normal human nature. That he could see how deceiving appearances can be. I love the teaching. I believe Mother Teresa has said something like this, and I believe it's also in the Course in Miracles, that one of the challenges with judging is we never have enough information to judge fully and accurately. Have you ever been misjudged? Raise your hand. Ever been misjudged? How did it feel? Not good at all, right? Not good at all. We may not be able to stop the other from judging us, but we can certainly make a commitment in our own growth and development that we're going to really watch our tendency to judge others, our tendency to judge by appearances, to be discerning, yes, but to be judgmental and critical, no. We never fully know another person's story. We never fully know why they are showing up the way that they are showing up. And when we can look at each other with softer eyes and a warmer and kinder heart, we can help to bring forth that warmth and kindness and goodness that is innate to every single one of us. to every single one of us. So a significant turning point is when we really are willing to catch ourselves, when we are judging people or situations by appearances, to say, wait a minute, let me step back for a moment, and let me remember that I probably don't have all the information that I need. Let me drop the judgment. Let me, instead of being judgmental, let me be curious, or let me be understanding. Fifth turning point comes when we practice some form of meta-kindness meditation. How many of you are familiar with meta-kindness meditation? Raise your hand high, just a few of you. It's one of my personal favorite forms of meditation. Meta-kindness meditation has at its heart holding and practicing and affirming for yourself certain positive qualities and states of being, while at the same time genuinely affirming and holding those same qualities for another. So it may go something like, may I be happy and content. May you be happy and content. May we be happy and content. May I be free of inner and outer harm. May you be free from inner and outer harm. May we be free from inner and outer harm. May that which clouds my mind and blocks my heart be dissolved. May that which clouds your mind and blocks your heart be dissolved. May that which clouds our minds and our hearts be dissolved. The idea is that these are not just words that we say, but actually feelings that we try to move into. And where it becomes particularly helpful, I think, in our individual, personal, and spiritual growth, is that we are invited when we do this to very deliberately look at radiating circles of people that we include in the meditation. So we begin with ourselves. Then we call to mind a beloved, somebody that is so easy for us to say, may you be happy and content. And we can feel that with no effort at all. But then we also invite that person that's really hard for us to hold that for. That person maybe that we're in a tough situation with. It could be an ex, it could be, who knows, a whole group of people that we just don't like. May you be happy and content, until we can hold, at least for an instant, that genuine kindness for all. Can you see how that would work on softening one's heart? How that could really result in greater personal and spiritual growth? I'll tell you, if there's anybody in your life that you're in a challenging situation with, and you practice this kind of meditation with them, I don't mean physically with them, but toward them, you will find that you begin to interact with that person in a much better way, that you really do see them differently than you had before. So fifth turning point, when we practice some kind of meta-kindness meditation. Sixth, when we recognize and seize the moments of true growth that come between stimulus and response. Hold in your mind the phrase stimulus and response. When we recognize and seize the moments of true growth that come when we pause between stimulus and response. Too many of us, until we really commit to our inner spiritual growth, too many of us live in a consistent reactionary knee-jerk mode. When someone or something happens that we don't like, bam, there's a reaction, and it's usually a reaction of anger or frustration or bitterness or resentment or animosity or a whole bunch of other kinds of feelings. But we react, and we think, they caused me to what? Feel that way. And it's actually not true. The place of real growth for us, and of all the things, one of the things that was most helpful to me in my early days of spiritual growth was learning this thing, that if I could just recognize the stimulus and I could pause for a split second, I could step into that split second with a different response and with a better response. And the more I was able to do that, the more things started to work better. Does that make sense? So it's really, we're here because we want to grow personally, right? Yes? No? Am I the only one? Okay, because sometimes I think maybe you're eavesdropping and I'm talking to myself, and it's nice to have a room of people I get to talk to, right? But growth looks like this. It looks like catching ourselves, lovingly catching ourselves, paying attention to those moments of stimulus, paying attention to that reaction that wants to come up and go, oh, wait a minute, I can pause. I can pause, and that pause is one of the most powerful places of personal growth and transformation you will ever find. Our growth does not happen like a light switch where all of a sudden, ta-da, it's not the elevator. You don't get on an old haggard person and come off a few seconds later totally transformed. It is a process, and the process is this moment by moment noticing and stepping into a different way of being. And the last turning point that I want to share with you is when we practice the power of commitment. When we practice the power of commitment, say that with me. When we practice the power of commitment, I believe so strongly in how very important it is to do whatever it is we said we were going to do. To be true to our word in little things and in big things. If we say we're going to get back to somebody, then we get back to them. It took me a while to learn when people would come through the line on Sunday morning and they would say something to me that would perhaps require an action on my part. I would say, yes, I will do that. But eventually I had to learn there's a long distance of memory between the lobby and by the time I get to my office that sometimes I would forget, and I didn't like that. So I came upon a very simple plan, a plan I still use to this day, and it is simply to say, I want to do for you what I said I would. Follow up with me with an email so I will not forget because what you're asking me is important to me, and I will do what I said I was going to do. You do that enough in your life, and the goodwill that you garner, not only from others, but you begin to trust yourself so much more. It's not hard to do. It just takes a little extra effort until you get into the habit of doing it. So there's commitment in the little things, and there's commitment in the big things. I don't know if this statistic is true or not, but it's an interesting one to me. The percentage of Americans who own top-notch running shoes, but don't run. 87%. I don't know if that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of high, separating out just regular kind of tennies and stuff from those really good running shoes, but nobody runs, right? So what's the commitment there? I don't know. I'm going to close with a recap in a moment, but a piece that I know many of you have heard before. I think there are some things we can hear again and again because it sparks us to our own growth. Commitment by W.H. Murray. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and natural material assistance, which no man could have dreamt would have come his way. I have learned a deep respect for one of Goethe's couplets. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Can I have an amen to that? Amen. Amen. So quickly, the turning points I shared with you for personal growth. When we refuse to compromise our integrity, when we are willing to be honest with ourselves and where we need to do our own work, when we practice patience and gentleness with ourselves and others, recognizing that we are a work in progress, when we learn to judge not according to appearances, when we practice some form of meta-kindness meditation, when we recognize and seize the moments of true growth that come when we pause between stimulus and response, and when we practice the power of commitment. Namaste.
Many people enjoy Reverend Wendy's talks and meditations and aren't able to attend the Unity Center in person. If you're part of our extended family from around the world and would like to help support the Unity Center, please go to our website or download our free app, which offers even more ways to connect with the Unity Center. Namaste.